My mom said, "We can't be in two places at once," and chose my brother's wedding over seeing me in the ICU. They spent thousands on his honeymoon while ignoring my hospital bills. I stayed silent until they asked me to cover their mortgage again. I replied, "Ask the son who was worth showing up for." By morning, every account was closed, and their world began to crumble. My name is David. I am 31 years old, and for most of my adult life, I have been the person my family calls when things fall apart. Not when they celebrate, not when they take vacations or plan parties. They call me when the car breaks down, when the mortgage is short, when the credit card bill comes due and nobody else wants to answer. I learned early that being dependable meant being invisible. My parents never forgot my brother Ethan's birthday. They threw him parties with cakes that had his name spelled out in frosting, with balloons tied to every chair. My birthdays came and went with a phone call if I was lucky, a text message most years. Ethan was the golden child. 3 years younger than me, he moved through life like someone who had never been told no. He got the car I saved for when I was 16. My parents sold my desktop computer to pay for his college application fees. When he graduated, they threw a party that cost more than my entire semester of community college. I paid my own way through school. I worked nights stocking shelves and weekends doing data entry. I graduated with a degree in accounting and a job that paid well enough to help when my parents needed it. And they needed it often. Every month, like clockwork, I sent money. Sometimes it was $300 for the electric bill. Sometimes it was $800 to cover property taxes. Once I wired $2,000 because my father's truck needed a new transmission, and they had already maxed out their credit cards on Ethan's wedding expenses. I told myself this was what family did. You help, you support, you show up when people need you, even if they never show up for you. My apartment was small but clean. One bedroom, a kitchen with outdated appliances, a living room barely big enough for a couch and a television. I did not need much. I worked long hours, came home tired, ate simple meals. I saved where I could, but most of my paycheck went to bills, rent, and whatever my family needed that month. Ethan, meanwhile, lived in a townhouse my parents helped him buy. He had a job in sales that sounded impressive, but never seemed to cover his lifestyle. Designer clothes, weekend trips, dinners at restaurants with prix-fixe menus. My parents bragged about him constantly. At family dinners, I sat at the far end of the table. Ethan held court at the center, telling stories about clients he had closed or vacations he was planning. My mother laughed at everything he said. My father nodded with pride. When I spoke, the conversation moved on before I finished my sentence. I did not complain. I smiled. I passed the dishes. I cleared the plates while everyone else moved to the living room for coffee and dessert. This was my role, the dependable one, the backup plan, the wallet they opened when they needed something. I told myself it was enough. But late at night, when the apartment was silent and the glow of my phone was the only light in the room, I felt the weight of being forgotten. I felt the ache of being useful but not loved. And still, I stayed silent, because I thought that is what family did. The accident happened on a Tuesday. I was driving home from work when a truck ran a red light and hit my car on the driver's side. I do not remember the impact. I do not remember the ambulance or the paramedics cutting me out of the wreckage. I woke up 3 days later in the ICU with a shattered collarbone, 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a concussion that left me dizzy and nauseous every time I tried to sit up. The nurse told me I was lucky. The doctors said I would recover, but it would take time. Weeks, maybe months. I called my parents from the hospital phone because my cell had been destroyed in the crash. My mother answered on the 3rd ring. "David, hi. We are just finishing breakfast. What is going on?" Her voice was light, distracted. I could hear my father talking in the background, something about golf. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Mom, I was in an accident. I am in the ICU at Mercy General. I am okay, but I am hurt pretty bad. Can you come?" There was a pause, not the kind of pause that comes from shock or worry, the kind that comes from inconvenience. "Oh, sweetheart, that is terrible. Are you sure you are okay? Do you need us to bring you anything?" I stared at the ceiling tiles, counting the small holes in the foam panels. "I just need you here. I do not have anyone else." Another pause, longer this time. David, honey, you know Ethan's wedding is this weekend. We have been planning this for months. The rehearsal dinner is Friday. The ceremony is Saturday. We cannot be in two places at once. I closed my eyes. The monitors beeped beside me, steady and rhythmic, the only sound in the room that made sense. I am in the ICU, Mom. I know, and we feel awful about this. But the doctors said you are stable, right? You are going to be fine. Ethan only gets married once. We will come see you as soon as we get back, I promise. The line went quiet. I held the phone against my ear, waiting for her to say something else, waiting for her to realize what she had just said. She did not. Okay, Mom. You understand, right? We will visit next week. You rest up, okay? Love you. She hung up before I could respond. I set the phone down on the bedside table and stared at the IV line taped to my arm. The clear bag dripped slowly, rhythmically, keeping time with the monitor. I understood perfectly. For the next 4 days, I lay in that hospital bed alone. Nurses checked my vitals. Doctors updated my chart. A social worker stopped by to talk about insurance and payment plans. Nobody from my family called. On Saturday, while I was being moved from the ICU to a regular room, my brother was getting married. My parents were sitting in the front row, crying tears of joy. They were toasting champagne at the reception. They were dancing under string lights and taking photos that would be framed and hung on walls. And I was learning how to breathe without feeling like my ribs were tearing apart. When I was finally discharged, I took a rideshare home because I had no car and no one to pick me up. I paid the driver with the last $50 in my wallet and climbed the stairs to my apartment one step at a time, gripping the railing so hard my knuckles turned white. Inside, the apartment was exactly as I had left it. My keys were still on the counter. My jacket was still draped over the back of a chair. I sat down on the couch and stared at nothing. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother, a photo of Ethan and his bride cutting the cake, both of them laughing. The caption read, "Best day ever." I set the phone down and did not pick it up again. Recovery is a strange kind of loneliness. The first week after I got home, I barely moved. Every breath was an effort. Every shift in position sent sharp pain through my ribs. I slept sitting up because lying flat made me feel like I was drowning. I called into work and explained what had happened. My manager was sympathetic. She told me to take all the time I needed. The company had short-term disability coverage, but it only paid 60% of my salary, and it would not kick in for another 2 weeks. I started calculating. Rent was due in 10 days. My hospital bills were already arriving in the mail, thick envelopes with numbers that made my stomach turn. The insurance covered some of it, but the deductible was $6,000, and I had maybe $800 in savings. I thought about calling my parents. I thought about telling them I needed help, but every time I picked up the phone, I remembered my mother's voice. We cannot be in two places at once. I set the phone back down. 3 weeks after the accident, my mother finally called, not to check on me, not to ask how I was healing, to tell me about the honeymoon. David, you should see the photos. Ethan and Clara went to Bora Bora. The resort was incredible. Overwater bungalows, private beach, the whole thing. Your father and I helped them upgrade to the luxury package. It was worth every penny. I was sitting at my kitchen table, staring at a pile of medical bills. My collarbone still ached. I still could not lift my left arm above my shoulder. That sounds nice, Mom. It was. We are so proud of him. He worked so hard. He deserved this. I wanted to ask her if she remembered that I had been in the ICU 3 weeks ago. I wanted to ask if she realized I was still recovering, still struggling to pay for the treatment that kept me alive. I did not ask. I am glad he had a good time. Oh, he did. Anyway, I just wanted to update you. We will come visit soon, I promise. Love you. She hung up. I sat there for a long time, holding the phone, staring at the bills. They had spent thousands on a honeymoon upgrade while I was deciding which bill to pay first, so I did not get sent to collections. Something inside me shifted. Not anger, not yet, just clarity. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account. I pulled up every automatic payment I had set up over the years. Transfers to my parents for the mortgage, payments for their car insurance, subscriptions to streaming services they used but never paid for. I stared at the list, and I did nothing. Not yet. But I saved the page. I bookmarked it, and I went to bed with a strange, cold feeling settling in my chest. I could not sleep. The pain was manageable now, dull instead of sharp, but my mind would not stop. I got up and moved to the living room. I opened the closet and pulled out a box I had not touched in years. Inside were old photos, report cards, letters from college. I spread them out on the coffee table and looked at my life in reverse. There was a photo from my high school graduation. I stood alone in my cap and gown, holding my diploma. My parents had been there, but they left early because Ethan had a baseball game that afternoon. There was a birthday card from when I turned 18. My mother had signed it, but the message was generic. Hope you have a great day. Love, Mom and Dad. Ethan's 18th birthday had been a surprise party with 50 people, a DJ, and a cake shaped like a football field. I found a stack of bank statements from my college years. I had kept them because I was meticulous about tracking expenses. I flipped through them now and saw the pattern clearly. Sophomore year, I wired my parents $500 for car repairs. 2 months later, I saw photos on social media of Ethan's new gaming setup. Junior year, I sent $1,000 to help with property taxes. That same month, my parents took Ethan on a weekend trip to a ski resort. Senior year, I paid $800 for my mother's dental work. 3 weeks later, Ethan got a loan co-signed for a brand new car. Every time I helped, they turned around and spent on him. I had been the backup fund for Ethan's life. I thought about the townhouse they had helped him buy. I thought about the wedding, the honeymoon, the luxury package to Bora Bora. And I thought about myself, sitting in an ICU bed alone, while they celebrated. I closed the photo album. I put the papers back in the box. I sat in the silence of my apartment and let the weight of it settle over me. For the first time in my life, I was not sad. I was not hurt. I was done. They showed up 6 weeks after the accident. No warning, no phone call. Just a knock on my door at 7 in the evening. I opened it and found my parents standing in the hallway. My mother held a casserole dish covered in foil. My father looked uncomfortable, hands in his pockets. Surprise, my mother said brightly. We brought dinner. Can we come in? I stepped aside. They walked into my apartment like they owned it. My mother set the casserole on the counter. My father looked around, frowning at the stack of medical bills on the table. You really should organize those, he said. I did not respond. My mother turned to me, smiling. You look good. I mean, considering. How are you feeling? Better. That is great. We felt so bad we could not come sooner. But you know how it is. Life gets busy. I stared at her. She did not notice. Anyway, we wanted to check in. Also, we need to talk to you about something. I knew what was coming before she said it. Your father and I are a little short this month. The mortgage payment is due, and we had some unexpected expenses with the wedding and everything. We were hoping you could help us out, just until we get caught up. The room went very still. I looked at my father. He would not meet my eyes. I looked at my mother. She smiled expectantly, like this was routine, like this was normal. How much? I asked quietly. 1,500 should do it, just to cover the gap. I walked to the kitchen table and picked up one of the hospital bills. I held it up so she could see the number at the bottom. I owe $8,000 in medical bills. My insurance barely covered anything. I am on short-term disability, which pays 60% of my salary. I have been eating ramen and canned soup for a month because I cannot afford groceries and rent at the same time. My mother's smile faltered. David, I know it has been hard, but you spent thousands of dollars on Ethan's honeymoon while I was recovering from a car accident. You chose his wedding over visiting me in the ICU. You have not asked me once how I am managing, and now you want me to pay your mortgage. My father finally spoke. We are family. Family helps each other. I set the bill down. You are right. Family does help each other. So ask Ethan. Ask the son who was worth showing up for. The silence was sharp, cold. My mother's face went pale. David, that is not fair. Neither is this. I walked to the door and opened it. You need to leave. My father moved first, brushing past me without a word. My mother hesitated, her mouth opening and closing like she wanted to say something. She did not. She followed my father into the hallway. I closed the door behind them and locked it. I stood there for a long time, breathing hard, my heart pounding in my chest. Then I went to my laptop, and I started closing accounts. I worked through the night. First, I pulled up every automatic payment linked to my accounts. There were more than I remembered. Mortgage transfer, $1,200, first of every month. Car insurance for both vehicles, $280 monthly. Home security system, $45. Streaming services, 6 subscriptions, totaling $90. Credit card auto pay for my father's gas card, varies but averaging $300 monthly. Utility assistance. I had been covering shortfalls for 2 years. The electric company had a note in my account that I was an authorized payer. I went through each one systematically. I canceled the mortgage transfer first, 1 click, confirmation email, then the car insurance. I called the company and removed myself as a payer. The representative asked if I wanted to notify the policyholder. I said no. The streaming services were easy. Cancel, cancel, cancel. The credit card was harder. I had to call and verify my identity twice. But eventually the autopay stopped. For the utility company, I submitted a written request to be removed as an authorized payer. I specified that I was no longer willing to cover shortfalls and that all future bills should go directly to the account holder. I saved copies of every confirmation email in a folder labeled Closed Accounts. Then I opened my bank statements and started a spreadsheet. I listed every payment I had made to my parents over the last 5 years. Every wire transfer, every bill I covered, every emergency expense I handled. The total came to $63,000. $63,000. I sat back and stared at the number. That was more than I made in a year. That was a down payment on a house. That was financial security I had given away piece by piece while they built a life for my brother. I thought about the ICU. I thought about lying there alone, listening to monitors beep, wondering if anyone cared that I was alive. I thought about my mother's voice. We cannot be in 2 places at once. I saved the spreadsheet. I backed it up to 3 different places. Then I looked at my calendar. Their mortgage payment was due in 5 days. Car insurance would renew in 2 weeks. I closed the laptop and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept through the night. The first call came 3 days later. It was early morning. I was drinking coffee, staring out the window when my phone rang. My father. I let it ring. He called again. Then my mother. Then Ethan. I turned my phone off. An hour later, someone knocked on my door. Hard, insistent. I looked through the peephole. My father stood there, red-faced, furious. I did not open the door. David, I know you're in there. Open up. We need to talk. I stayed silent. The mortgage payment bounced. The bank called us. They said the transfer was canceled. What the hell did you do? I walked away from the door. He pounded on it 3 more times, then left. I turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls, 9 voicemails, dozens of texts. I read one from my mother. David, please call us. This is serious. We could lose the house. I deleted it. The text kept coming. From my father. You are being childish. This is not how family treats each other. From Ethan. What is your problem? Mom and Dad need help and you are ignoring them? From my mother. Please, David, we are begging you. Just this once. I blocked all 3 numbers. Then I sent 1 email. To my parents, CC'd to Ethan. The subject line read, Final Accounting. The body was simple. Attached is a detailed record of every payment I have made on your behalf over the past 5 years. The total is $63,000. I will no longer be providing financial support of any kind. All automatic payments have been canceled. Do not contact me again. I attached the spreadsheet. I hit send. Then I blocked their email addresses too. Over the next 2 weeks, I heard pieces of what happened. A neighbor I occasionally talked to mentioned that my parents were scrambling to cover bills. Their car insurance lapsed. They had to borrow money from Ethan to make the mortgage payment, but even that was not enough for the late fees. The utilities were shut off for 2 days before my mother managed to scrape together enough to get them turned back on. Ethan, who had been living beyond his means, suddenly had to cut back. The neighbor said he looked stressed every time she saw him. My parents tried to refinance the house to consolidate debt. But without my income listed as support, they did not qualify. Everything I had been holding up quietly, invisibly, for years began to collapse. And I did nothing. I went to work. I paid my own bills. I attended physical therapy for my shoulder. I lived my life. One evening, I checked my old email account, the one I had not blocked. There was a message from my mother. The subject line read, "Please." I hovered over it for a long time. Then I deleted it without opening it. 3 months later, I moved. I found a better apartment across town. 2 bedrooms, a real kitchen, a balcony with a view of the city. I could afford it now that I was not sending half my paycheck to my parents every month. I furnished it slowly. A decent couch, a real dining table, art on the walls. It felt like mine. One evening, I stood on the balcony with a cup of coffee and watched the sun set over the skyline. The air was cool. The city hummed below me, alive and indifferent. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Ethan. I do not know if you will read this, but I need to say something. Mom and Dad are struggling. They might lose the house. I know you are angry, but they are your parents. Does not that mean anything to you?" I read it twice. Then I typed a reply. It meant everything. That was the problem. I blocked the number. I set my phone down and looked out at the city. I thought about the ICU. I thought about lying there alone, listening to my mother choose a wedding over my survival. I thought about every birthday I spent unnoticed, every sacrifice I made that went unacknowledged, every time I showed up when no one showed up for me. And I realized something. Family is not supposed to be a one-way transaction. Love is not supposed to hurt like this. I had spent years being the dependable one, the backup plan, the wallet. I had thought that was what family meant, but it was not. Family shows up. Family chooses you. Family does not make you beg for the bare minimum of care. I was done begging. I finished my coffee. I went inside and closed the balcony door. In the morning, I would go to work. I would pay my bills. I would build a life that was mine, and I would do it without them. Because the son they left in the ICU was the same son who had been keeping them afloat, and now they were drowning, and I was finally learning how to breathe.
We gotta decide on a time.